In the quiet darkness of a remote observatory in New Mexico, Dr. Emily Carter sat hunched over her computer screen. Her eyes were tired, but she couldn't look away. The faint hum of machinery filled the air as data streamed across her monitor. Next to her, Daniel Wells, her young assistant, sipped his third cup of coffee for the night. They had been scanning the skies for weeks, searching for anything unusual. Tonight, they found it. "Emily, you need to see this," Daniel said, his voice tinged with excitement. He pointed to a series of strange blips on the screen. At first glance, they looked like random noise, static from deep space. But something about the pattern caught Emily's attention. It wasn't random at all. She leaned closer, adjusting the settings on the telescope software. "That's not natural," she murmured. The signal was faint, almost as if it were deliberately being hidden. Bursts of energy came in short, rhythmic pulses, repeating every few minutes. It reminded her of Morse code, though far more complex. "What do you think it is?" Daniel asked, leaning over her shoulder. His curiosity was contagious, but Emily didn't want to jump to conclusions. She knew how easy it was to mistake cosmic phenomena for something more meaningful. Still, there was no denying that this was different. "I don't know yet," Emily replied, her tone cautious. "But we need to record everything." She began running algorithms to clean up the signal, filtering out background interference. Hours passed as they worked silently, their focus unbroken. Finally, fragments of a message emerged. It wasn't clear at first, just bits and pieces, but one phrase stood out. "This war will be your mistake." Daniel froze. "Did you hear that? Did it just say war?" Emily nodded slowly, her brow furrowed. "It did. And I don't think it's talking about some distant conflict in space." She felt a chill run down her spine. Whoever, or whatever, had sent this message seemed to know about humanity. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. The two scientists spent the rest of the night analyzing the signal. By dawn, they had managed to isolate coordinates embedded within the transmission. It pointed to a distant star system, far beyond anything humanity had explored before. Emily stared at the numbers on her screen, her mind racing. What could this mean? Was it a warning, a trap, or perhaps an invitation? "We have to tell someone," Daniel said, breaking the silence. "If this is real, people need to know." Emily hesitated. Sharing such a discovery would bring scrutiny, and possibly danger. Governments might see it as a threat, while others could exploit it for power. Yet keeping it secret felt wrong. This wasn't just her discovery. It belonged to all of humanity. "Let's make sure we're right first," she said finally. "One more test to confirm the source." As the sun rose outside, casting golden light through the observatory windows, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that their lives were about to change forever. Whatever this signal was, it wasn't just a message from the stars. It was a call to action. And the stakes couldn't be higher. The next morning, Emily and Daniel drove to a top-secret military base, tucked away in the mountains of Colorado. The facility was heavily guarded, with soldiers patrolling the perimeter and cameras watching every angle. Emily clutched a folder containing their findings, her hands trembling slightly. She knew this meeting could decide the fate of their discovery, and maybe even humanity. Inside the briefing room, General Harold Grant waited for them. He was a tall man with sharp features and an air of authority that made Emily feel both respected and uneasy. Beside him sat Captain Laura Hayes, a confident woman with short brown hair and piercing green eyes. Her uniform was immaculate, and her presence commanded attention. Next to her stood Lieutenant Ryan Cole, a younger man with a calm demeanor and a notebook in hand. Both were part of the Space Exploration Division, ready to act on anything significant. Emily took a deep breath and began explaining their findings. She showed the team the decoded signal, the mysterious coordinates, and the chilling phrase, "This war will be your mistake." As she spoke, she noticed skepticism in the general's expression. His arms were crossed tightly over his chest, and his jaw was set firm. "You're telling me," General Grant said slowly, "that some alien force sent us a message, and now you want us to send people out there based on what? A few lines of static." "It's not just static," Emily insisted. "It's deliberate. Someone, or something, wants us to find them. Whether it's a warning or an invitation, we can't ignore it." Laura leaned forward, her gaze intense. "I agree with Dr. Carter. If there's even a small chance this is real, we need to investigate. Ignoring it could put Earth at risk." Ryan nodded in agreement but added cautiously, "We also need to consider the risks. What if this is a trap? We don't know what or who we're dealing with." General Grant rubbed his temples, clearly weighing the options. After a long pause, he sighed. "All right," he said finally. "We'll assemble a team. But let's be clear, this isn't a science mission. It's reconnaissance. Your job is to gather information and come back alive." "Understood." "Yes, sir," Laura replied without hesitation. Ryan gave a slight nod, though his expression remained thoughtful. As the meeting ended, Emily felt a mix of relief and unease. Relief because someone was finally taking her work seriously, and unease because she knew how dangerous this mission could be. Later, as she walked back to her car with Daniel, she voiced her concerns. "Do you think they'll really listen?" Daniel asked quietly. "What if they make the wrong decision?" "They have to," Emily said firmly. "If we don't figure out what this message means, we might never get another chance." She glanced up at the sky, where countless stars twinkled silently. Somewhere out there, answers awaited. And whether Earth was ready or not, the journey had begun. Over the following days, preparations for the mission moved quickly. Laura and Ryan worked closely with engineers to prepare a spacecraft capable of traveling to the distant star system. Meanwhile, Emily stayed in contact with the team, offering guidance whenever needed. Though tensions ran high, everyone shared a common goal: to uncover the truth behind the mysterious signal. One evening, as Emily reviewed the latest updates, she couldn't help but wonder about the beings who had sent the message. Were they friends or foes? Did they seek peace or destruction? For now, all she could do was hope that humanity would rise to the challenge ahead. Preparations for the mission moved forward at a rapid pace, but tensions among the crew began to surface almost immediately. At the heart of the conflict was Captain Laura Hayes and Dr. Benjamin Ross, the mission's chief scientist. Their arguments often spilled into the main control room of the spacecraft Odyssey, where engineers worked tirelessly to ensure everything was ready for launch. Laura believed the mission should focus on defense. "We don't know what's out there," she said firmly during one heated discussion. "If this is a trap, we need to be prepared to fight." Benjamin shook his head, his glasses slipping slightly down his nose. "And what happens if they're peaceful? If we go in guns blazing, we'll look like aggressors. This isn't just about us. It's about representing all of humanity." Ryan Cole, who had been quietly observing the exchange, stepped in to mediate. "Both of you have valid points," he said calmly. "But arguing won't solve anything. We need a balance between caution and curiosity. That's the only way we'll succeed." Though Ryan's words helped ease the tension temporarily, it was clear that the differences between Laura and Benjamin ran deep. Each carried their own fears and priorities, and neither was willing to back down easily. For Ryan, the pressure came from a different source: his family. He spent many evenings sitting alone in his quarters, staring at photos of his wife and young son. The thought of leaving them behind weighed heavily on him. His wife had tried to stay strong when he told her about the mission, but he could see the worry in her eyes. "You'll come back, right?" his son had asked innocently during their last video call. Ryan had forced a smile and promised he would, but the uncertainty gnawed at him. Despite the challenges, the team pressed on. Engineers tested the Odyssey's systems repeatedly, ensuring it could handle the long journey ahead. Medical staff conducted physical exams and psychological evaluations to confirm everyone was fit for space travel. Supplies were loaded onto the ship, including food, water, and equipment for analyzing whatever they might find at their destination. As the launch date approached, Emily Carter visited the base to offer her support. She met with Laura privately one evening, sharing her thoughts about the mission. "This isn't just about science or defense," Emily said softly. "It's about hope. Whatever we find out there, we owe it to ourselves and future generations to face it together." Laura nodded, though her expression remained guarded. "I just hope we're ready for whatever comes our way." On the day before the launch, the entire crew gathered for a final briefing. General Grant stood at the front of the room, his voice steady but serious. "This mission represents the best of humanity," he said. "Courage, curiosity, and determination. But remember, survival comes first. No matter what happens, your job is to come back alive." After the meeting, the crew shared a quiet moment of reflection. They knew the risks. They had trained for them, but the reality of leaving Earth behind still felt surreal. As they walked to their quarters, Ryan stopped by a window overlooking the night sky. Stars twinkled brightly against the dark expanse, each one a reminder of the vast unknown waiting for them. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" Benjamin asked, joining him unexpectedly. Ryan hesitated before answering. "I don't know, but I do know we can't turn away now. Whatever's out there, we need to see it through." The next morning, the Odyssey stood ready on the launch pad, its sleek design gleaming under the rising sun. The crew climbed aboard, their hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. As the countdown began, Laura took a deep breath and reminded herself why they were here. For better or worse, humanity's future rested in their hands. And with that thought, the engines roared to life, propelling them toward the stars. The journey into deep space was long and silent, the vast emptiness stretching endlessly around the Odyssey. For days, the crew worked in shifts, monitoring the ship's systems and keeping a close watch for any signs of trouble. The hum of the engines became a constant background noise, almost soothing in its monotony. Yet beneath the surface, unease lingered. Laura Hayes spent much of her time in the command center, staring out at the endless sea of stars. She tried to focus on the mission ahead, but her mind kept drifting back to Earth. Was she doing the right thing? What if they were leading humanity into danger instead of salvation? These questions haunted her, though she never let them show in front of the crew. Ryan Cole, meanwhile, found himself struggling with homesickness. He often replayed videos of his wife and son during his downtime, their laughter a bittersweet reminder of what he had left behind. Sometimes he would sit quietly in the mess hall, gazing at the photos on his tablet. Other crew members noticed but said nothing, respecting his need for privacy. Dr. Benjamin Russ threw himself into his work, studying the mysterious signal and preparing equipment for their arrival. He spent hours analyzing data, searching for any clue that might help them understand what they were heading toward. Despite his earlier arguments with Laura, he respected her leadership and did his best to stay focused on the mission. But as the days turned into weeks, strange things began to happen aboard the Odyssey. Equipment that had been functioning perfectly started to malfunction without explanation. Sensors picked up faint readings that disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Static crackled over the communication channels, even though there was no reason for interference this far from Earth. One night, while most of the crew was asleep, Ryan noticed something odd on the monitor. A series of numbers flashed across the screen, numbers that matched the coordinates they were traveling to. Before he could investigate further, the display went blank. He reported it to Laura the next morning, but she dismissed it as a glitch. "We can't afford to chase ghosts," she said firmly. "Focus on what we know." Still, the incidents continued. Crew members began experiencing vivid dreams. Dreams of destruction and chaos, of planets burning and skies filled with fire. No one spoke about them openly, but the tension grew. Even Benjamin, usually so rational, admitted to feeling uneasy. "It's like something is watching us," he confessed to Laura one evening. Then came the voices. Faint whispers echoed through the ship, barely audible but impossible to ignore. At first, the crew thought it was fatigue playing tricks on their minds. But when Emily Carter, who had remained in contact via video link, heard about the phenomenon, she grew alarmed. "This isn't normal," she warned. "Whatever you're experiencing, it might be connected to the signal." Laura refused to let fear take hold. "We stick to the plan," she told the crew during a meeting. "We follow the coordinates, gather information, and return home. That's all we need to do." Despite her confidence, doubt crept into everyone's thoughts. They were traveling farther from Earth than anyone had ever gone before, venturing into territory no human had seen. The unknown loomed large, and the closer they got to their destination, the more it felt like they were being pulled into something far bigger than themselves. Finally, after months of travel, the Odyssey approached the designated star system. On the view screen, a massive structure came into view, an alien artifact orbiting a dying sun. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly light, pulsating rhythmically like a heartbeat. The sight took their breath away. "This is it," Laura whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Whatever answers we're looking for, they're inside that thing." As the crew prepared to investigate, none of them could shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Something, or someone, was waiting for them. And as the Odyssey drew closer, the whispers grew louder, blending with the hum of the engines. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back now. The Odyssey hovered silently near the massive alien structure, its surface glowing with an eerie light. The crew stared at it through the ship's windows, their faces a mix of awe and unease. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, smooth and metallic, yet alive in a way that defied explanation. Patterns shifted across its surface, almost like waves rippling on water. The sight was mesmerizing but unsettling. Laura Hayes broke the silence first. "We need to get closer," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the knot of tension in her stomach. "Let's send a landing party to investigate." Ryan Cole nodded, though his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the controls. "I'll prep the shuttle," he offered. Benjamin Ross quickly gathered his equipment, his mind racing with possibilities. This was what they had trained for, but now that the moment had arrived, the weight of it felt overwhelming. As the shuttle detached from the Odyssey and approached the structure, the crew noticed something strange. The artifact seemed to react to their presence. Its glow intensified, and the patterns on its surface began moving faster, swirling into intricate designs. It was as if the object was alive and aware of them. Once inside, the air was cool and still, the walls shimmering faintly. The crew activated their headlamps, casting beams of light into the darkness. Strange symbols covered the walls, pulsating softly as though they were breathing. Benjamin ran his fingers over one of the markings, his breath catching in his throat. "This isn't just decoration," he murmured. "It's some kind of language." Suddenly, a holographic projection flickered to life before them. Images filled the room, scenes of planets burning, cities crumbling, and ships exploding in fiery bursts. The destruction was horrifying, each frame more devastating than the last. Voices overlapped in the background, speaking in languages no one recognized. Despite the chaos, one phrase stood out clearly: "This war will be your mistake." Laura clenched her fists, trying to stay calm. "What are we looking at?" she asked, her voice tight. Benjamin shook his head, his glasses fogging slightly from the cool air. "Records," he said quietly. "These must be records of civilizations destroyed by war. Whoever built this place, they wanted to warn others." Ryan glanced around nervously. "Warn us about what? And who's us? Are they talking about Earth?" Before anyone could answer, the images shifted again. This time, they showed humans, or at least beings that looked remarkably human, working together to build weapons of unimaginable power. Explosions followed, wiping out entire worlds. The message was clear. Humanity itself might be destined to repeat the same mistakes. "This can't be real," Ryan muttered, stepping back instinctively. "How could they know about us?" "They've been watching," Laura said grimly. For how long, we don't know. But this wasn't meant for just anyone. It's for us. Benjamin pointed to a new set of symbols appearing on the walls. Look, these coordinates, they match the ones we followed here. But there's something else. His voice trailed off as he studied the markings. Another location. Maybe another artifact, or survivors. Laura frowned, considering their options. If this is a warning, then we need to listen. But we also need proof, something tangible to take back to Earth. As they debated, the structure seemed to respond once more. A low hum filled the chamber, growing louder with each passing second. Lights flashed rapidly, and the floor beneath them vibrated. Panic spread among the crew. We need to leave, Ryan shouted, grabbing his gear. Now. But Benjamin hesitated, staring at the shifting symbols. Wait, there's more here. No time. Laura barked, grabbing him by the arm. Move. They sprinted back toward the shuttle, the structure trembling violently behind them. As they climbed aboard and launched away from the artifact, the hum faded and the lights dimmed. For a moment, everything went quiet. Back on the Odyssey, the crew caught their breath, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. They had uncovered answers, but also raised countless new questions. Whatever the structure was, it wasn't just a monument to past tragedies. It was alive, intelligent, and possibly still active. And as the artifact grew smaller on their view screen, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't done with them yet. Back on the Odyssey, the crew gathered in the main control room to discuss what they had seen inside the alien structure. The holographic projections of destruction still haunted their thoughts, and the warning, "This war will be your mistake," echoed in their minds. Each of them felt the weight of the discovery, though they struggled to make sense of it. Laura Hayes stood at the center of the room, her expression serious. "We need to figure out who or what built that thing," she said firmly. "If they've been watching us, then we're not alone out here. And if they know about Earth," her voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. Humanity might already be in danger. Benjamin Ross adjusted his glasses, his face pale but determined. "The symbols we saw, they weren't random. They were records, warnings from a civilization that destroyed itself. But there's more to it. Those coordinates I found. They could lead us to others like this structure, or even survivors." Ryan Cole frowned, leaning against the wall. "Survivors? You really think anyone could have lived through something like that?" "It's possible," Benjamin replied. "Not all civilizations collapse completely. Some might find a way to endure. If we can locate them, maybe they can help us understand what happened and how to avoid the same fate." Laura nodded slowly, considering their options. "We'll send the coordinates to Earth as soon as we can, but we're not turning back now. Whatever answers are out there, we need to find them." As they prepared to transmit the data, strange things began happening again aboard the ship. Static crackled over the communication channels, louder this time, drowning out their attempts to contact mission control. The lights flickered, and the temperature dropped sharply, sending chills through the crew. It was as if the artifact was reaching out to them, refusing to let them go. Emily Carter's voice suddenly broke through the static, faint but urgent. "Laura, can you hear me?" she asked, her tone strained. "Something's wrong. We're picking up readings from your location, massive energy spikes. Are you safe?" Laura grabbed the microphone. "We're fine for now, Emily, but the structure, it's doing something. It's like it's alive." Before Emily could respond, the transmission cut off entirely. The crew exchanged worried glances. They were truly alone now, cut off from Earth and surrounded by an unknown force. That night, as the crew tried to rest, the whispers returned. Faint voices echoed through the corridors, speaking in languages none of them understood. Ryan sat awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he decided to check the ship's systems one last time. In the control room, he found Benjamin already there, hunched over a console. Couldn't sleep either, Ryan asked quietly. Benjamin shook his head. I've been analyzing the energy readings. There's something out there, something big. It's moving toward us. Ryan's heart sank. What do you mean, moving? Before Benjamin could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the view screen, a fleet of ships appeared, their designs sharp and angular, unlike anything human-made. They surrounded the Odyssey, cutting off all escape routes. Laura rushed into the room, her eyes wide with alarm. Who are they? She demanded. Benjamin studied the readings closely. I don't know, but they're not friendly. One of the ships sent a signal, and a message appeared on the screen. You have trespassed. Prepare to surrender. The crew froze, fear gripping them. Laura clenched her fists, determination replacing panic. We didn't come here to fight, she said firmly. But if they want a war, we'll give them one. Ryan glanced at her, his voice trembling. Do you think we stand a chance? We don't have a choice, Laura replied. If we go down fighting. For Earth. As the alien ships drew closer, the Odyssey's engines roared to life. The crew braced themselves for what was coming next. Whatever these beings wanted, humanity wouldn't surrender without a fight. The tension aboard the Odyssey was palpable as the alien ships closed in, their jagged forms casting long shadows across the void. Laura Hayes stood at the helm, her hands gripping the controls tightly. Her mind raced with possibilities, but one thing was certain. They couldn't give up. Not now. Not when they had come so far. Ryan, divert all power to the shields, she ordered sharply. Benjamin, keep scanning those ships. I want to know everything about them. Weaknesses, weapons, anything. Ryan nodded, his fingers flying over the console as he rerouted energy to the ship's defensive systems. The hum of the engines grew louder as the Odyssey prepared for a fight. Benjamin, meanwhile, stared intently at the monitors, sweat beading on his forehead. They're fast, he said grimly, and their weapons are unlike anything we've seen before. The alien fleet didn't waste time. A bright flash lit up the darkness as one of the ships fired a beam of energy directly at the Odyssey. The impact shook the vessel violently, throwing the crew off balance. Alarms blared, and warning lights flashed red throughout the ship. We can't take another hit like that, Ryan shouted, struggling to stabilize the controls. The shields are holding, but barely. Laura clenched her jaw. We need to buy ourselves some time. She turned to Benjamin. Did you find anything useful? Benjamin hesitated, his eyes darting across the screen. There's something. Their weapons seem to rely on targeting specific frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies, we might be able to disable them. Do it, Laura said without hesitation. Whatever it takes. As Benjamin worked furiously to recalibrate the ship's systems, Laura made a risky decision. She steered the Odyssey closer to the alien ships, hoping to draw their fire away from Earth's coordinates. It was a dangerous move, but she knew they couldn't let the aliens trace their path back home. The aliens responded aggressively, firing again and again. Each blast rocked the Odyssey, pushing its systems to the brink. Sparks flew from consoles, and smoke filled the air. Ryan coughed, shielding his face as he continued working. Shields are down to 20%. He yelled over the chaos. We can't keep this up much longer. Just as it seemed they were out of options, Benjamin's voice cut through the noise. I've done it. Frequency disruption is online. Laura didn't hesitate. Activate it now. A burst of energy radiated outward from the Odyssey, enveloping the alien ships in a shimmering field. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the alien vessels faltered, their weapons powering down. The once menacing fleet slowed to a halt, drifting helplessly in space. The crew exhaled collectively, relief washing over them, but their victory was short-lived. As the Odyssey limped away from the disabled fleet, General Harold Grant's voice crackled over the communication system. His tone was urgent, almost panicked. Captain Hayes, we have new intel, he said quickly. Hostile extraterrestrial forces have been monitoring Earth for decades. They've been waiting for us to make contact, and now they know we're here. Laura's stomach dropped. What are you saying, sir? I'm ordering you to return immediately, Grant replied. Earth needs every resource we have to prepare for what's coming. Laura exchanged a glance with Ryan and Benjamin. Returning meant abandoning the mission, but staying meant risking even greater danger. Before she could respond, Emily Carter's voice joined the transmission. There's more, Emily said quietly. Classified files reveal Earth has been developing advanced weapons under the guise of defense. If these aliens discover our true intentions. Her words hung in the air, unspoken fears filling the silence. Humanity wasn't just a victim, it was complicit. The line between protector and aggressor blurred dangerously. Ryan broke the quiet first. If we go back now, we'll never know who built that structure or why they sent us that message. And if we don't understand their warning, how can we stop whatever's coming? Laura nodded slowly. Then we finish what we started. For Earth and for the truth. With the alien fleet disabled and time running out, the Odyssey set course for the second set of coordinates. The journey ahead would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. But turning back was no longer an option. Whatever secrets lay at their destination, they had to uncover them before it was too late. The Odyssey followed the second set of coordinates, its battered frame pushing through the vast emptiness of space. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage from their encounter with the alien fleet, but the tension aboard the ship remained thick. Each member carried the weight of what they had learned, not just about the aliens, but about humanity itself. As they approached their destination, a new structure came into view. This one was smaller than the first, its surface smooth and metallic, glowing faintly in the darkness. Unlike the previous artifact, this one seemed dormant, almost lifeless. But as the Odyssey drew closer, it began to react. Lights pulsed along its surface, and a low hum filled the air. Laura Hayes ordered the landing party to prepare. We don't know what's waiting for us, she said firmly. Stay alert. Ryan Cole double-checked his equipment, his hand steady despite the nerves coursing through him. Benjamin Ross adjusted his glasses, his mind racing with possibilities. Whatever answers they sought were inside that structure, and they couldn't afford to make mistakes. Once inside, the crew found themselves in a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. The walls were lined with intricate patterns that shifted and changed, responding to their presence. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, glowing softly with an otherworldly light. As they approached, a voice echoed through the chamber, calm but commanding. You have come far, the voice said. It wasn't human, but it spoke in words they could understand. You seek knowledge. I am Guardian. Laura stepped forward cautiously. Who, or what, are you? She asked. I am the keeper of memories, Guardian replied. I preserve the remnants of civilizations lost to war. Your kind is not the first to walk this path. Benjamin's eyes widened as holographic projections appeared around them. Scenes unfolded before their eyes. Planets reduced to ash, cities crumbling, and ships exploding in fiery bursts. The images were accompanied by voices speaking in fragmented languages, each one telling a story of destruction. These are records, Benjamin whispered, his voice trembling. They're warnings, lessons. Guardian's tone grew somber. Your species stands at a crossroads. You have built weapons capable of unimaginable devastation. If you continue down this path, your fate will mirror those who came before you. Ryan clenched his fists, frustration bubbling to the surface. We didn't ask for this. We're trying to protect ourselves. And yet, Guardian replied, your actions speak louder than your words. The Krill, an empire driven by conquest, have already detected your presence. They see weakness, not peace. If they find Earth, no weapon will save you. Laura felt a chill run down her spine. What do you want from us? I offer a choice, Guardian said. Turn back now, and I will shield your location from the krill. Continue, and you risk awakening forces beyond your understanding." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Returning to Earth meant leaving behind the chance to uncover the full truth, but staying meant risking everything. "We can't turn away," Laura said finally, her voice firm. "If there's even a small chance we can stop this war before it starts, we have to take it." Guardian paused, as if considering her words. "Very well. But know this, the path ahead is fraught with peril. Trust in one another, or you will fail." With that, the chamber began to change. The walls opened up, revealing a series of corridors leading deeper into the structure. Lights guided them forward, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. As they moved cautiously through the passages, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that Guardian was watching them, testing them. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of their decision pressed down on them. Finally, they reached a large chamber filled with advanced technology. At its center was a device unlike anything they had ever seen, a console covered in symbols that seemed to pulse with energy. "This is it," Benjamin said quietly. "This must be how we send our message to the galaxy." Laura nodded, determination replacing fear. "Let's do this. For Earth." But as they approached the console, a new challenge awaited them. Activating the device required someone to stay behind, manually overriding its safeguards to ensure the signal reached its intended audience. The realization hit them like a punch to the gut. No one spoke as they stared at the console, the enormity of the situation sinking in. Someone would have to make the ultimate sacrifice, and time was running out. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air as the crew gathered around the console. The device hummed with energy, its symbols glowing brighter with each passing second. It was clear what needed to be done, but no one wanted to say it aloud. Sacrifice wasn't something they had prepared for. It wasn't part of the mission plan. Laura Hayes broke the silence first. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "If we want to send this message, someone has to stay behind." Ryan Cole clenched his fists, guilt and fear twisting in his chest. He thought of his wife and son back on Earth, their faces etched into his mind. "I'll do it," he said finally, his voice cracking. "You've got families waiting for you. I'm just me." "No," Laura replied firmly. "You're not staying. You're too important to the team." Benjamin Ross shook his head, stepping forward. "It should be me," he said quietly. "I understand the technology better than anyone. If something goes wrong, I can fix it." "Stop," Emily Carter's voice interrupted over the communication link. She had been monitoring their progress from Earth, her face pale but resolute on the screen. "This isn't your decision to make. It's mine." The crew froze, stunned by her words. Emily continued, her tone unwavering. "I've been analyzing Guardian systems remotely. I know how the device works, and I know what needs to be done. My expertise makes me the best choice." "Emily?" "No," Ryan protested. "You can't ask us to leave you here." "It's not about asking," Emily said softly, her eyes filled with determination. "It's about doing what's right, for Earth, for all of humanity. If this message gets out there, it could save billions of lives. Isn't that worth one person staying behind?" Tears welled up in Benjamin's eyes, and even Laura struggled to keep her composure. They all knew she was right, but accepting it felt impossible. "I'll guide you through activating the device," Emily continued. "Once it's done, you'll have a small window to get back to the Odyssey. After that," her voice trailed off, but the unspoken truth lingered in the air. Laura nodded slowly, her throat tight. "All right," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "but we're not leaving until the last possible second." The crew worked quickly. Following Emily's instructions, she stayed calm, guiding them step by step, her hands moving deftly over the controls of her remote interface. As the console began to activate, the room filled with a soft, golden light. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor beneath their feet. "You need to go now," Emily urged, her voice firm but gentle. "There's no time to waste." Ryan hesitated, tears streaming down his face. "Emily, thank you." She gave him a small, sad smile. "Take care of my planet, okay? And tell my family I love them." With heavy hearts, the crew turned and ran toward the exit. Laura glanced back one last time, locking eyes with Emily's image on the screen. "We won't forget you," she promised before disappearing into the corridor. As the others reached the shuttle and launched away from the structure, Emily remained at her post, her fingers flying over the controls. The device roared to life, sending waves of energy rippling outward into the galaxy. A message of peace, broadcast to the stars. The structure began to tremble, its walls glowing brighter and brighter. Emily closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She thought of Earth, of the people she loved, and of the hope she had fought so hard to protect. Then, with a final surge of energy, the structure sealed itself, cutting her off from the outside world. Back on the Odyssey, the crew watched in silence as the artifact vanished into the void, its light fading into the darkness. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. They had completed their mission, but at a cost none of them would ever forget. The journey back to Earth was quiet, the kind of silence that pressed heavily on the hearts of those aboard the Odyssey. Laura Hayes sat alone in the command center, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. Her mind replayed Emily's final words, her sacrifice etched into Laura's memory like a scar. She had promised not to forget, and she wouldn't. None of them would. Ryan Cole spent most of his time in the crew quarters, writing letters he knew he might never send. One was for his wife and son, filled with apologies and promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Another was for Emily's family, though he doubted words could ever capture what she had done. He wrote about her courage, her brilliance, and the way she had given everything for a chance at peace. But no matter how many times he rewrote the sentences, they always felt inadequate. Benjamin Ross poured himself into analyzing the data they had collected from the alien structures. The records of fallen civilizations haunted him, their stories a grim reminder of humanity's potential fate. Yet, amidst the devastation, he found glimmers of hope, fragments of art, music, and knowledge preserved by Guardian. It was proof that even in the darkest moments, beauty and resilience could endure. He vowed to share these discoveries with the world, to remind people of what was at stake. When the Odyssey finally re-entered Earth's atmosphere, the crew braced themselves for what awaited them. News of their mission had spread during their absence, and the planet was abuzz with speculation. Governments, scientists, and citizens alike were eager for answers. But as the spacecraft touched down on the landing pad, the weight of their responsibility felt heavier than ever. General Harold Grant met them as they disembarked, his expression unreadable. "You've done well," he said simply, though his eyes betrayed the gravity of the situation. "But the real challenge begins now." Laura nodded, her voice steady. "We brought back more than data. We brought back a warning and a choice. Humanity has to decide what kind of future it wants." Over the following weeks, the crew shared their findings with world leaders, scientists, and the public. The message Emily had sent echoed across the globe, sparking debates and soul-searching. Some saw it as a call to disarm, to abandon the weapons that had put Earth on the brink of destruction. Others viewed it as a rallying cry, a reason to strengthen defenses against the Krill or any other threats lurking in the stars. For Laura, the hardest part was speaking about Emily. At a press conference, she stood before a crowd of reporters, her voice trembling but resolute. "Emily Carter gave her life, so we could have this chance," she said, fighting back tears. "She believed in a better future, for all of us. If we don't honor her sacrifice by making the right choices, then we've failed her." As days turned into months, the impact of the mission began to take shape. Nations started working together in ways they never had before, setting aside old rivalries to focus on survival. New technologies emerged, inspired by the alien artifacts, offering possibilities for cleaner energy and sustainable living. Slowly, Humanity began to shift, not perfectly, but with purpose. One evening, Laura stood outside her home, gazing up at the night sky. The stars twinkled brightly, distant and untouchable. She thought of Emily, somewhere out there among the cosmos, her light still shining in the darkness. And she thought of Earth, fragile yet resilient, teetering between hope and despair. "We'll get it right," Laura whispered to herself, as if making a promise to the universe. "We have to." In the distance, a child laughed, chasing fireflies in the warm summer air. Somewhere, a musician played a melody inspired by the alien records Benjamin had shared. And in homes around the world, people talked about the future, not with fear, but with determination. Humanity's path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges and unknowns. But for the first time in a long time, there was hope. And in that hope, Emily's sacrifice lived on, a quiet echo of courage that would guide them forward, one step at a time.